6.9 million years ago, our planet transformed into something monstrous. A world so cold, so hostile, that 90% of all species faced extinction. This wasn't just an ice age. This was Earth becoming an alien nightmare. 7 million years ago, Earth looked completely different. Lush forests covered the Sahara. Yes, the desert was green. Rivers flowed where sand dunes exist today. Hippos swam in lakes across North Africa. The Arctic had no permanent ice. Trees grew near the North Pole. Crocodiles lived in Greenland. Average global temperatures were 12 degrees warmer than now. Incredible creatures roamed everywhere. Deinotherium, elephants with downward curving tusks. Chalicotheres, PHP, horse-gorilla hybrids with massive claws. Amphicyonids, AGAGs, bear dogs weighing 600 pounds. Megalodons still hunted the oceans. Three-toed horses galloped across grasslands. Carbon dioxide levels stayed around 400 parts per million. This greenhouse gas acted like a thermal blanket, keeping Earth warm. Then, multiple disasters struck simultaneously. Continental plates shifted. Mountain ranges rose. Ocean currents changed direction. The comfortable climate system that existed for millions of years suddenly collapsed. Within 200,000 years, lightning fast geologically, temperatures plummeted globally. Paradise became purgatory. Several catastrophic events combined to create this cooling. Panama's land bridge finally connected North and South America. This blocked warm Pacific water from entering the Atlantic. Ocean circulation patterns, stable for 20 million years, instantly disrupted. The Himalayas underwent massive growth spurts. These mountains reached new heights, altering jet streams and monsoons across Asia. Weather systems that brought rain to certain regions completely redirected. Antarctica positioned itself perfectly over the South Pole. Surrounded by circulating currents, it became isolated from warm waters. The continent transformed into a giant freezer, pulling heat from the atmosphere. Volcanic activity decreased dramatically. Fewer eruptions meant less CO2 entering the air. Earth's natural heating system essentially shut down. Plants began pulling more carbon from the atmosphere. New grassland species absorbed CO2 faster than forests. They locked carbon underground in extensive root systems. Each change reinforced others. Cooling led to more ice. Ice reflected sunlight. Less heat meant more cooling. A vicious cycle began. Ice sheets advanced like slow-motion tsunamis. Starting from mountain peaks, glaciers crept downward. Each winter added layers. Summers couldn't melt the accumulation. Year after year, frozen masses grew larger. Scandinavia disappeared first. Mile-thick ice buried Norway, Sweden, Finland. The weight actually pushed land down hundreds of meters. North America came next. Glaciers stretched from Alaska to Missouri. Chicago's location sat under 2 kilometers of ice. New York, completely crushed. These weren't normal glaciers, they moved. Grinding forward at 100 meters annually, they demolished everything. Mountains got shaved flat, valleys carved out. Massive boulders transported thousands of miles. Sea levels crashed. With so much water locked in ice, oceans dropped 50 meters minimum. That's a 15-story building worth of water. Gone. Continental shelves became dry land. You could walk from France to England. Asia connected to Australia. The Caribbean islands merged into larger landmasses. Marine ecosystems collapsed. Coral reefs, needing specific depths and temperatures, bleached white then died. Coastal marshes vanished. Mangrove forests withered. While ice consumed northern regions, the Mediterranean experienced something equally terrifying. The Strait of Gibraltar sealed shut. Tectonic forces lifted the seafloor, creating a natural dam. Atlantic water couldn't enter anymore. Under the scorching sun, the Mediterranean evaporated. The entire sea, gone in just 1,000 years. What remained? A hellscape of salt deserts 3 kilometers below sea level. Temperatures at the bottom reached 80 degrees Celsius, 176 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to cook meat. Hypersaline lakes formed in the deepest spots. These toxic pools killed anything that touched them. Salt concentrations exceeded the Dead Sea by 5 times. Then Gibraltar reopened catastrophically. The Zanclean flood began, the history's most violent water event. The Atlantic Ocean burst through at 100 million cubic meters per second. Imagine Niagara Falls multiplied by 1,000 refilled. The Mediterranean refilled in under 2 years. This flooding sent shockwaves globally. Sudden weight on the seafloor triggered earthquakes. Tsunamis devastated coastlines. Climate patterns shifted again. The air itself turned hostile during this period. Methane nearly vanished from the atmosphere. This powerful greenhouse gas, produced by wetland bacteria, disappeared as marshes froze. Another heat-trapping layer eliminated. Oxygen levels increased slightly, good for breathing, terrible for temperature regulation. Oxygen doesn't trap infrared radiation like other gases. Dust storms became constant. With vegetation dying, exposed soil blew freely. Particles filled the sky, blocking sunlight. The jet stream weakened and wandered unpredictably. Weather patterns became chaotic. Decade-long droughts followed by catastrophic floods. No stability remained. Storm intensity increased paradoxically. Temperature differences between equator and poles drove powerful cyclones. Hurricane-force blizzards became common. Even the sky's color changed. Less water vapor meant clearer air. Stars appeared brighter. Auroras reached toward the equator. Sunsets lost their vibrant reds and oranges. Against impossible odds, some creatures adapted brilliantly. Woolly mammoths evolved specialized features. Blood vessels in their ears ran close together, warming incoming blood. Hemoglobin adapted to release oxygen at lower temperatures. 4-foot-long hair provided insulation. Bears developed two strategies. Some became polar specialists, MAS, white fur, webbed paws, blubber layers. Others hibernated longer, surviving winters underground. Horses grew smaller but hardier. Compact bodies conserved heat better. Hooves adapted for icy ground. Digestive systems processed poor-quality frozen grass. Plants developed antifreeze proteins. These molecules prevented ice crystals from forming inside cells. Evergreen needles replaced broad leaves. Seeds became cold-resistant. Insects created glycerol compounds. This natural antifreeze lets them survive being frozen solid. They could thaw and resume living. Our ancestors faced the ultimate evolutionary pressure. Australopithecus groups developed larger brains for problem-solving. They created primitive tools, fire sharp stones for cutting meat, digging sticks for roots. Fire use possibly began during this era. Social cooperation intensified. Groups sharing food and shelter survived better. Language precursors emerged from necessity. Complex planning became essential. Most species weren't so fortunate. Large herbivores struggled finding food. Browsers starved as forests disappeared. Grazers competed fiercely for remaining grasslands. Predators faced cascading failures. With prey scarce, carnivore populations crashed. Pack hunters outcompeted solitary ones. Scavengers briefly thrived on carcasses, then starved too. Ocean life suffered massively. Warm water fish retreated to shrinking equatorial zones. Deep-sea creatures faced temperature drops and food shortages. Entire reef ecosystems vanished permanently. Freshwater systems froze solid. Lakes became permanent ice blocks. Rivers stopped flowing for decades. Even soil organisms died off. Frozen ground prevented decomposition. Nutrients stopped cycling. Plants couldn't grow even where temperatures allowed. Scientists estimate 65% of genera went extinct. Not species, the entire genera. Thousands of unique evolutionary lineages ended forever. The survivors would repopulate Earth, but into a fundamentally altered world. Ecosystems reassembled differently. Food webs restructured completely. Evolution took new directions. This ancient cooling shaped everything. Human evolution exploded. Environmental pressure forced bigger brains. Tool use became essential. Groups that cooperated survived. Geographic isolation created new species. Separated populations evolved differently. When ice melted, these groups met again, sometimes mating, sometimes fighting. Modern ocean currents started here. Weather patterns we know today began. Even soil locations reflect ancient glacier paths. Most importantly, the Ice Age cycle started. Earth now alternates between frozen and warm periods. We're living in a temporary warm phase right now. Genetic bottlenecks almost wiped out many species. Today's limited diversity comes from these near-extinction moments. Earth 6.9 million years ago, a frozen hellscape that nearly ended life as we know it. Glaciers crushing continents, oceans vanishing, our ancestors barely clinging to existence. Yet from this catastrophe came innovation. Crisis drove evolution. The savage cold ultimately produced beings capable of understanding their own history. Could you survive a world where temperatures drop 12 degrees? Comment below. Subscribe for more Earth history. Share with anyone who thinks winter today is tough. We're descendants of Ice Age champions. Peace! In a world full of dangers and mysteries, early humans faced questions they couldn't answer. Why did storms strike? Why did people die without warning? One curious caveman, Grok, started asking, who controls all of this? His search for answers led to the birth of the first religion. How did fear turn into faith? And could it all start with a single question? The truth might be even more surprising than you think. This is the story of how our cave-dwelling ancestors became the first people on Earth to believe in something bigger than themselves. This is how religion was born. Picture life 50,000 years ago. There were no cities, no houses, no schools, and definitely no smartphones. Early humans lived in small groups of maybe 20 to 30 people. They spent their days hunting animals, gathering berries and nuts, and trying not to become someone else's dinner. Life was hard and scary. Really, really scary. Every single day brought new dangers. Saber-toothed cats could jump out from behind rocks. Huge bears lived in the best caves. Poisonous snakes hid in the grass. And that was just the animals. The weather was even more frightening. Thunderstorms came out of nowhere, with lightning bolts that could split trees in half and start enormous fires. Sometimes the ground would shake so hard that rocks would fall from cliffs. Rivers would suddenly flood and wash away everything in their path. But the scariest thing of all? Death. These early humans watched their friends and family get sick and die, and they had no idea why. One day, someone would be laughing and sharing food around the fire. The next day, they would be cold and still, never to move again. Our ancestors were smart, but they didn't know about germs or viruses or heart attacks. They didn't understand earthquakes or weather patterns. To them, all these terrible and wonderful things had to be caused by someone or something with incredible power. Let's imagine we're following a caveman named Grok. Don't laugh at the name, it's what we think early humans might have been called. One evening, Grok was sitting outside his cave when the most amazing thing happened. The whole sky turned red and orange and purple like someone had spilled paint across the heavens. We know this as a sunset, but Grok had never seen anything so beautiful and mysterious. Who painted the sky? Grok wondered. What powerful being can change the colors of the whole world? The next morning, Grok watched the sun come up, bright and warm, chasing away the cold darkness. It was like magic. Something was making the light come back every day, just when his tribe needed it most. Then came the really big moment. During a terrible thunderstorm, lightning struck a dead tree near Grok's cave, but instead of just destroying the tree, something amazing happened. Fire appeared! Dancing, flickering, warm fire that could cook food and scare away dangerous animals. Grok and his tribe gathered around this gift from the sky. They had never seen anything like it. The fire seemed alive, dancing and crackling, giving them warmth and light in the scary darkness. The sky spirits gave us this fire, Grok told his tribe. They want to help us. This was probably one of the first religious thoughts in human history. Questions that changed everything. As early humans became smarter, they started asking bigger and bigger questions. Why does the sun go away every night? Is it angry with us? Who makes the rain fall when our water runs out? Why do some people die while others live? Where do we go when we die? Who decides if we find food or go hungry? These questions were too big and scary to leave unanswered. Early humans needed explanations, even if they had to make them up. So they started creating stories. Maybe there was an invisible, super powerful being who controlled the Sunday. Maybe there were spirits living in the trees and rocks and rivers. Maybe their dead friends and family were still alive somewhere else, in a place they couldn't see. These stories made them feel less scared and alone in the big, dangerous world. Archaeologists, the people who dig up old things to learn about the past, have found some incredible discoveries that show us how early religion began. In caves around the world, they've found paintings that are over 40,000 years old. These aren't just pictures of animals or handprints. Some show strange creatures that are half human and half animal. Others show people dancing or performing ceremonies around fires. One of the most amazing discoveries was in a cave in France. Early humans had drawn pictures of what looked like a sorcerer or shaman, a special person who could talk to the spirits. This person was wearing animal skins and antlers, dancing in a magical pose. This tells us that even 40,000 years ago, humans believed in supernatural powers and had special people whose job it was to communicate with these powers. Here's something that will amaze you. Early humans were probably the first animals on Earth to bury their dead instead of just leaving them behind. Why is this so important? Because it shows they believed death wasn't the end of the story. Archaeologists have found graves that are over 100,000 years old. But these aren't just holes in the ground. Early humans buried their dead with tools, food, flowers, and jewelry. They even positioned the bodies in special ways, sometimes curled up like they were sleeping. Why would they do this unless they believed the person would need these things in another life? Imagine young Grok watching his grandfather being buried with his favorite spear and some berries for the journey ahead. Grok's tribe believed that grandfather was going somewhere else, somewhere they couldn't see, but where he would still need his spear to hunt and food to eat. This was the beginning of belief in an afterlife, the idea that part of us continues to exist after our body dies. Early humans saw spirits in everything around them. The river that gave them fresh water? It had a river spirit who decided whether the water would flow or dry up. The forest where they hunted? Forest spirits lived in every tree and decided whether the animals would be easy to catch or hide away. The mountains that surrounded their valley? Mountain spirits who could cause landslides if they got angry. Even their tools and weapons had spirits. A spear that helped a hunter catch many animals was blessed by the spirits. A tool that broke at the wrong time was cursed. This way of thinking is called animism, the belief that everything in nature has a spirit or soul. It was probably the very first type of religion that humans ever had. As these beliefs grew stronger, something interesting happened. Some people in the tribe seemed to be better at communicating with the spirits than others. Maybe it was the old woman who always knew when storms were coming. Maybe it was the hunter who could find animals when nobody else could. Maybe it was the person who had strange dreams that sometimes came true. These special people became the first priests, shamans, and spiritual leaders. Their job was to talk to the spirits on behalf of everyone else. They would perform ceremonies, make offerings to the spirits, and try to keep the invisible powers happy. If someone got sick, the shaman would try to heal them by asking the spirits for help. If the tribe needed rain, the shaman would perform a rain dance. These were the first religious leaders in human history. Those painted caves we talked about earlier? They weren't just art galleries. They were probably the first churches or temples ever built. Deep inside dark caves, early humans would gather around fires and paint pictures on the walls. But these weren't just any pictures. They painted the animals they hunted, the spirits they believed in, and the ceremonies they performed. Scientists think these caves were sacred places where the tribe would come together to perform religious rituals. The paintings were like prayers written on stone that would last forever. Imagine young members of the tribe being brought into these painted caves for the first time, seeing the dancing figures and animal spirits flickering in the firelight. It must have been magical and terrifying and wonderful all at the same time. So why did early humans create religion in the first place? Scientists have several ideas. First, religion helped explain things they couldn't understand. When you don't know what causes lightning, it makes sense to think a powerful spirit is throwing bolts from the sky. Second, religion made people feel less alone and scared. Believing in protective spirits or gods gave them hope and comfort in a dangerous world. Third, religion brought the tribe together. Shared beliefs and ceremonies helped people work as a team and take care of each other. Fourth, religion helped people deal with death. The idea that their loved ones continued to exist somewhere else made losing them less painful. Finally, religion gave people a sense of purpose. Instead of just trying to survive each day, they felt like they were part of something bigger and more important. From those first cavemen wondering who painted the sky, religion has grown and changed and spread all around the world. Today, billions of people follow hundreds of different religions, from Christianity to Islam to Buddhism to Hinduism and many others. But they all started with the same basic human need, the need to understand our place in the universe and to believe in something greater than ourselves. Every time you see someone pray, or visit a church, temple, or mosque, or celebrate a religious holiday, you're seeing the continuation of something that began 50,000 years ago with a caveman named Grok looking up at a painted sky and asking, "Who did this?" The next time you look up at a beautiful sunset, or feel scared during a thunderstorm, or wonder what happens when we die, remember that you're asking the same questions that led to the very first religious thoughts in human history. Those brave, curious cavemen who first looked beyond themselves and imagined invisible powers controlling the world around them gave us one of humanity's most important gifts, the ability to believe in something bigger than ourselves. And that, my friends, is how religion was born in the caves and around the fires of our ancient ancestors, changing the course of human history forever. 50,000 years ago, giving birth meant facing death. No hospitals, no doctors, just raw survival. Yet against predators, brutal climates, and endless movement, prehistoric women not only gave birth, they thrived. New archaeological evidence shows these communities built incredibly sophisticated systems to protect mothers, turning every birth into a collective mission of survival. For most of human history, spanning the Paleolithic period from 300,000 to 10,000 years ago, pregnancy was humanity's ultimate survival challenge. Our ancestors faced predators, harsh weather, constant movement, and limited resources, yet somehow, generation after generation survived to pass on their genes.